why are you not getting better at jiu-jitsu? Or maybe one way you could put it too is why do you feel like you're not getting better? Man, I can only talk in the context of what I've felt for me, but also with athletes that train at the gym that I own and guys that I coach. And for context, like most gyms, you've got guys and gals that are good, guys and gals that are maybe not like as good yet. You've got beginners, you've got experts. But for slight context, my gym, Dynasty Jiu-Jitsu, we've been around for 4 years. What's pretty unique is that we have the most PAN Kid champions in all of Missouri. And just so you guys have for context, PAN's Kids is like it's like the Super Bowl for kids that are under the age of 15 and younger. It's through IBJJF. So we have the most PAN Kids champions out of Missouri. We're the only team with Jiu Jitsu champions, which by participation wise, it's the largest tournament in the world. But for context, like majority of the people, let's say you have kids that compete at PAN Kids or Jiu Jitsu, and both of these are IBJJF. There's a good chance that like half the athletes that compete against may not even speak their same language. So it's pretty cool experience. But we're also the only team south of Missouri that has an adult PAN champion, world's bronze medalist. So I'm sharing that just so you guys have like a bit of context that for a gym that's been around for 4 years, we've been extremely blessed. I feel like some of that has been through, for lack of a better word, just my raw obsession with jiu-jitsu. So all I do with my life is like family and jiu-jitsu. That's it. I really don't play any video games. Like I'll do some stuff on my phone, but I really don't spend any time on anything outside of family and jiu-jitsu. Because of that, I've like discovered a lot of fun ways to improve my level faster, but also giving that to our athletes. So one of the ways that I found, if I think back to when I was a blue belt, about moments that I've had really big jumps in my jiu-jitsu. And when I say like really big jumps, I mean like not just like I was beating guys that were new in the gym or guys that have been doing it a similar amount of time. It was like I started beating people that were better than me, that have done it longer than me, that know cumulatively more jiu-jitsu than I did. And what happened was, for those of you that remember, like I started jiu-jitsu in 2009, but there was a guy named Kenny Cornelius at the time when he was competing, which he was incredible. Still great at jiu-jitsu, but at the time he was quite the enigma. And what he did is that he played a lot of lapel guard. And lapel guard at the time, again, like Keenan, was a bit of an enigma. You didn't see a lot of people playing it. And the idea of lapel guard, you tie people up, they can't move as well. A lot of the dynamic movements people were used to doing, they couldn't do anymore. And there wasn't a lot of good defense for lapel guard. There's more now, but it's still, if you have a better knowledge of lapel guard, you have quite the advantage on bottom. And coincidentally, since jiu-jitsu's evolved more, there's more lapel guard style of passing on top as well, which is pretty neat. But I started having these big jumps to where even like rolling with my coach, I started to actually be able to sweep my coach and beat my coach in a lot of these positions. And what was unique and what really caught my attention with lapel guard is that I generally like things that are more off meta, that people don't really know how to defend as well. So it really caught my attention. And what I started doing is I started like really obsessing over lapel guard. Like lapel guard was never taught in practice or in school like practice, right? But it caught my attention because of how much success it was having, and it was something different, right? But I ended up, for those who remember, like with instructionals, there was no like BJJ fanatics. It was like, you would buy DVDs, they'd get to your house and you would study them. Or like most people did, they would pirate them, but I didn't do that. I purchased the DVD. So I purchased like Keenan's like first DVD on lapel guard and started studying through it, would watch it over and over again. But there was like a lot of techniques on there. So what I ended up doing was like studying 1 to 2 techniques at a time. And at the time I wasn't training full time like I am now, to where I do jiu-jitsu in the morning, and then I do jiu-jitsu at night, do strength and conditioning, all that stuff. It was like I was working a normal, I guess people would say like a 9 to 5, but it was really like a 7 a.m. to like 4, right? So I would wake up at 5:30, study some film, like probably like 30 minutes ish, but I would study the same stuff like over and over again, watch the technique over and over again, so it was like burnt into the back of my brain. Go to work, and then I would go to practice, do whatever technique was being taught. But in sparring, it was all I was trying to go for. And what happened was I started to make crazy progress, and I would say like started having more fun in jiu-jitsu because I started winning a lot more in my sparring rounds. But as I've like been in jiu-jitsu longer, I've realized that like where a lot of the fun comes into play to win in jiu-jitsu, it's not like scoring more points than your opponent or getting the submission, which those things are obviously like freaking awesome. I mean, winning a game is fun, but it was getting better at jiu-jitsu, like feeling like I was making legitimate improvement, having more options, finding little different ways to tweak what I was doing that was working or not working to make it better. And man, it started to get a lot of fun for me. Like I started to look forward to waking up at 5:30 to study a little bit of film. And I didn't like realize what I stumbled upon. But as I've done jiu-jitsu longer and I've gotten a lot better at jiu-jitsu, I've realized one of the main reasons why I wasn't making the progress I was wanting to make was because I didn't have like a core thing I was really focusing on getting better at. So I've talked about some of my other videos, but like getting better at jiu-jitsu is like doing 1,000 puzzle, you know? Like if you think about it, like the picture of the puzzle looks awesome, it looks great, but as you start putting these little pieces together, it looks like nothing like the picture, right? And if I start trying to put like all the pieces together, anything I can connect together, I got a bunch of these little pieces everywhere, but it doesn't look like anything. Like I'm making progress, but I don't feel like I'm really making a lot of good progress. Like I'm not getting that little dopamine hit of feeling like, man, I'm getting closer. But if I focus on just one little area at a time, or maybe like 2 areas, and I try to find the pieces that connect there, I'm gonna start having a better vision of having the complete picture of like the puzzle done. And it's gonna be more enjoyable doing it that way, right? Because it takes time to complete 1,000 puzzle pieces. But if I try to do all of it all at once, it's gonna feel impossible. Like you can argue you'll make progress, but you're not gonna feel like you're making as much progress. And I would say you're not gonna be making as much progress as you could if you focus on like 1 or 2 areas. And what I stumbled upon was that like I only focused on one area. And the nice thing is like, even with only being able to train at the time, like 2 to 3 times a week, I started making like really crazy progress because all I focused on was one thing, like one concept, one idea, and it was lapel guard. And I kept finding it to where I was like drilling it before sparring. If I couldn't like drill it before sparring, I would spar, try to do it, and then drill it a little bit after. And then like I would ask my partner like, hey, what would you do if I got here or there? And just like have fun with it. But as I've like grew to the point where I opened my own gym, started training every single day, got the opportunity to only do jiu-jitsu full time, it like opened me up more to where I could focus on like 2 or 3 things at a time that I was trying to improve at. So like, for example, right now I'm working a lot of, for my guard passing, working a lot of like controlling like headquarters in a very specific way, like Gustavo Batista does, which he's a world champion, very talented dude. And then like for my guard, for example, I'm working a lot of transitions with like double sleeve. So now that I have more time to train and more, less things that distract me from jiu-jitsu, because again, all I have is family and jiu-jitsu, I can like have more of a, I guess you could say, I don't want to say like a split focus, but I could focus on more things. But when I started to realize like, holy cow, the big jumps that I got in jiu-jitsu prior to me going like full time doing jiu-jitsu was when I really obsessed over like one thing. And this one thing was guard, and it was specifically lapel guard. And as I started to make like more progress, it really snowballed my interest and love for jiu-jitsu, and the sport started to be crazy fun for me, like crazy fun. So it wasn't just like, man, this is a really fun sport, I enjoy it, I can only beat the people that have done it longer than, or maybe some of the people that have done it as long as me, but now that I go with an upper belt, I'm going to get destroyed. Because there's no way you're going to be able to catch up to somebody like that if you're studying at the same rate that they are, a bunch of random things here and there. But like with that 1,000 puzzle piece, jiu-jitsu's like that, but it's almost an infinite puzzle piece, if that makes sense. There's so many ways you could play guard, so many ways you can guard pass, so many ways you can go for takedowns. There's quite a few ways you guys can pull guard. But if I try to focus on a bunch of random things like let's say your gym goes over half guard one week, close guard the next, guard passing the next, submission the next, like you'll learn more techniques that way, but you're not going to be able to perform it at a higher level. Like you're not going to be able to learn it to half guard one week, get 2 sweeps, and be able to do it to your coach the next week, or do it to maybe like a blue belt or a purple belt if you're a white belt, right? But if you focus on just half guard for 6 months, especially if like you do jiu-jitsu 2 to 3 times a week, and you study like all those transitions and like what can happen, and re-watching a lot of like how-to style of technique, right? And maybe find somebody that competes at a really high level that does that specific thing really well. Watch how they do it, but also watch how they do it in competition and try to emulate that. So like starting off, you may like copycat a bit, but you're really looking for like inspiration of like how they do it in competition. So right now, like with me trying to improve my guard passing, like I feel really confident in my guard in competition. Things go really well when I'm playing guard, but against very specific styles of guard, especially the black belt adult level, I'm having some trouble having the success that I have in training. So I spend a lot of time like studying a lot of athletes. You got Titan Dalpra, a lot of those guys that are really good. But for me, like I've been studying a lot more of like Gustavo Batista. So like, yes, some of the how-to techniques he talks about, but more of like inspiration, watching him in matches, and through like watching for inspiration, but also like the how-to, that is like the perfect mix and combo that I feel like that has made it to where, not just you can say like, yes, I'm making progress because I'm winning more, passing more, whatever, but I feel like I'm making more of that progress, which then has been snowballing my jiu-jitsu in so many different ways. So like today, for example, we're going to be training. It's our 9 a.m. pro team training. So when I like get warmed up, I'm going to go through the stuff that I'm going to be working. I'm going to ask for like very mild resistance for my partner. I may start with none, then they start giving me more and more, to where it's like almost like playing a flashcard game. So like they give me this resistance, so I know I do this. Then the next one they give me this resistance, then I do that. So then maybe they mix up the resistance. So then I'm like practicing going through it to where I have some resistance, but it's very controlled. Like we know I'm going to win. And then we'll transition up to doing like situational rounds. So these situational rounds, a lot of times you do like 2 minutes, person on bottom picks the guard, right? So if I'm really trying to get better guard passing, I'm gonna have to be able to get out of whatever guard they have, hunt for my headquarters position, because it's like my checkpoint, it's my safe space that I'm trying to get to. And then from there, I'll work my stuff. Well, then with guard, I'm gonna pick whatever guard I'm working for and try to get better from there. But when I looked back and realizing, oh, my biggest jumps in jiu-jitsu was when I obsessed over one position. It's gonna work the same way for you, because your goal shouldn't be to win every jiu-jitsu sparring round. If you want that, it's a good thing. Because yes, we're playing a game. The game is jiu-jitsu. Like if you're not playing a game to win, like you play Monopoly and you don't care if you win, I don't connect with that. But if you put all your focus and intention of just improving your level of jiu-jitsu, what's going to happen is that you are going to end up winning far more. Like the byproduct of just focusing on getting better is literally you winning more, finding more submissions, scoring more points. But if you have limited time, like let's say 2 to 3 times a week, pick one area. If you're like, what area is that? Look at a bunch of different guards, different guard passing styles. Pick what like catches your attention the most. Maybe it's something as simple as like, man, I keep getting my guard passed and I get stuck in side pin, right? Or like side control. Find a handful of ways of how to escape side control and practice that, you know, and drill it over and over again. That's maybe not like as fun. It'd be wise to do as a white belt, but let's be real, like spending your whole time of like, all right, I'm focusing on getting out of mountain side pin. Very wise, very good to do. not as fun. So maybe like when you look at that, like pick a guard that you feel like you can find and get to, that you're interested in, and work on your guard retention from that position. Like find some instructionals and content that could be free or that you pay for about how to do those things and study that. But you'll notice like it can be pretty overwhelming, like a crazy list of techniques. But pick one or two and only focus on those two things, where you're drilling it, situationally sparring it, actively looking forward in sparring, and focus on just improving your level from there. So obviously we're going to be filming some of the training today, but the stuff I'm talking about, but not just like filming for making content, but what's really useful for filming your rounds as well is that rounds you think that didn't go as well as what you thought, I found a lot of times were not as bad. There's a handful of things that I did good that I couldn't remember after the fact, especially the next day when I'm thinking back on sparring. But also the rounds may not have gone as well as what you thought. So the rounds you may think you're super dominant, doing super well, but you realize, oh man, like that worked, I got points, but I should have done this, and this better. Because remember, my goal in this is to improve my level of jiu-jitsu. It's not to win sparring. It's not to like score more points and get submissions. It's to improve my level. Now, understand though, yes, I want to get more submissions. Yes, I want to get more sweeps. But the byproduct of focusing on just improving my level is we do those things. So let's get ready to do some training and get after it. So you guys are going to be seeing me work really two things this whole practice. The first thing is I'm starting everything from my double sleeve, and then I'm looking to connect to De La Riva with the actual cross sleeve grip. So you'll see that I'm like obviously switching the grips right now, and right now I'm like just talking with my training partner. This is Ethan, by the way, PAN champion, very talented kid, ranked 10th in the world right now when I'm recording this for IBJJF. Very talented, dangerous light feather. But I'm getting the De La Riva with the cross sleeve grip here. And what we're basically doing right now is we're dialoguing basically what I'm looking to do in the position and getting kind of like his reaction about feedback from like how it's basically feeling to him. So this is to where like jiu-jitsu can go from an individual sport to a team sport, because if you just try to improve your level by yourself and you don't incorporate your training partners, your teammates, or people you're cross training with, you're going to have like a very you're basically not going to improve at the rate that you would want to if you looked back into time, right? So here I'm basically going to be working the cross sleeve grip with the De La Riva, but I'm actually baiting and wanting, because this is obviously when I'm working, to have my partner be able to put me into the headquarters position. And the headquarters position is basically getting the foot between the legs, getting strong opportunities to pass. But what I'm going to be looking to do is actually off balance Ethan, and I'm actually going to be looking to set up looking to basically be setting up, getting the opportunity to put him in a leg entanglement here to where either get him in a bear trap, or as you kind of see here, I have his knee trapped as well. The nice thing about this is that my right knee is basically going to be able to push the hip that's closest to the camera and trap him on the ground. Now, I am technically reaping in this position, but what allows this technique to be legal in IBJJF or other organizations in the gi is that I'm not actually controlling with my upper body the leg that I have between my legs. So as long as if I control that far pant grip, or even just the leg, like I can wrap it through like an ankle lock, it's totally legal in this position. But this makes it extremely difficult for the person that's on top to be able to get their hip off the mat and do much of anything. And as you look here, I'm basically talking through with my training partner about what I'm going to be drilling and what I'm going to be looking for, and then basically be getting feedback. And this has like been the whole process of how I've been really working to develop my jiu-jitsu and what I push our athletes at my gym at Dynasty to do. And this is like the stuff that, Ethan's done, which is obviously the kid that I'm drilling with right now. It's a PAN champion, ranked 10th in the world, very dangerous submissions, very good at jiu-jitsu, very dedicated. And the same with all of our other athletes that have been performing really well, from kids to adults. But now, as you see, we're going to be going through this, and I'm just going to drill it over and over again and get verbal feedback and obviously physical feedback as well. And this is basically some of the secret sauce of what we found that's been helping our athletes like improve at a really fast rate. So it's basically going through drilling, going through the technique, but not being mindless about it, talking with your teammate, getting feedback, and getting help. Now, what we're going to be doing is basically as we progress through this, I'm not just going to be getting more verbal feedback, but I'm going to ask him to start giving me more resistance, kind of going back and forth, And then we're going to basically, as we go to our situational rounds, it's all I'm going to be focused on doing while I'm on bottom, just trying to work my double sleeve, trying to connect to the cross sleeve grip, get the De La Hiva, and then allow my partner to put me in headquarters, or I'll just put myself in headquarters and then look to go for this attack to be able to get myself into a position that I can start scoring and controlling people in the position, whether I get bear trap or another position. And for context, I generally have like 2 or 3 options of something that I'm working through that you could say, I guess, is relatively new. So you saw as I came up before, put myself into headquarters, looking to pass. But now I'm putting myself in the bear trap, and I'm dialoguing again with my training partner to basically see what reactions he feels, what he would do in the position, and getting his opinion. If this wasn't Ethan, somebody who trains every day, twice a day, studies as much film as I do, I might not be asking as much of like technical feedback, but I'd be more asking like, hey, in this position, how would you move? And then have them move and basically react based off what they do in the position. But with this bear trap, obviously I'm working to take the back and looking to find basically what is the best option in this position. And through dialogue and kind of going back and forth, this is to where I've found we've gotten some of the best results with our training partner. So obviously for myself, I can pick 2 or 3 things from guard, 2 or 3 things from top. But you have to have this in context though. I train every day, twice a day, study film. All I do is jiu-jitsu. So how can this work for you? If you're training 1 to 2 to 3 times a week, you basically would do almost half of what I'm doing right now. So instead of like working your guard passing, maybe you just pick guard. Pick one position and 2 reactions that you're really going to really push your time into, focusing on drilling, studying, looking for inspiration, trying to hit it in sparring or situational rounds, which I guess you could say is still sparring, but generally in situational rounds, you can kind of have like some level of control over the resistance, or at least know what kind of resistance you're going to get into. So it's more of like playing a game of flashcards. Like your opponent gives you a reaction. By that, you seeing what reaction they give you, you should know what to do next, but they're not trying to like win the spar, right? But you guys can choose like 1 to 2 things, whether it's just guard, just passing, just takedowns, maybe your guard pull and getting to a guard. But I would narrow your focus of what you're going to consistently be focusing on for, I would suggest, the next 3 months. But if I'm being very blunt to what I've seen works best, there's something magical about that 6-month mark. Now, if you think about it though, surface level, you're like, oh man, 6 months, I'm only going to get better at these 2 things. Man, the results you will get in sparring, the results you'll get in tournaments, only focusing on 1 to 2 areas, as opposed to trying to learn everything all at once, your results are going to be significantly different and better. And you will enjoy jiu-jitsu so much more. So you may learn like less jiu-jitsu than some of your friends that may be going through the method of 1 technique 1 week, 1 technique the next, just kind of like trying to absorb everything. They may know, quote, more than you, but what you know, you'll be able to perform at a higher level. And the variety of things that they know, they won't be able to compete with you because they won't have the same level of understanding of all those techniques as you do with the few techniques, and I'm using quotations here, the few techniques that you know, and obviously, hopefully, building to understand. All right, so jumping to some of our situational rounds. For context, what we're doing here, it's 2 minutes, 1 person's pulling guard, and then you're basically sparring at that point, and we're resetting off submission. So you see as I get this guard pull, Seth, the guy on top, really great guy, good at jiu-jitsu, ends up putting me right in the headquarters position, but is giving me a slightly different reaction than what I was getting before, which made it so I couldn't elevate him up as much, but I was still able to find the position that we were drilling earlier. And then from here, I'm basically looking to take my time, be in comfortable position, to then I am going to come up and then work the sweep. But keep in mind, in this position, this is sparring, but at the same time, like this is also drilling. It depends on how you look at it, right? So drilling, a lot of people view no resistance, but how we view drilling is that it's scaling levels of resistance, right? So in this one, the reactions I'm going to be getting are completely unpredictable, but I have a goal in my mind of trying to find these positions and work them against live resistance. And over time, this is how you're really going to develop and improve your level of jiu-jitsu. Now, what can happen sometimes, maybe at open mat, or let's say you're just drilling, I say drilling, you're sparring, but you're not getting the exact reactions that you want. What do we do in these situations? So here's a good example here. I really want Josh, the guy that I'm sparring with in this position and training, I want him trying to be passing from his feet. And realistically, guys, like if you want to pass, you have to be working to get up to your feet. Being on your knees in a situation like this is a real easy way to get submitted or off balanced very easily, just like you saw Josh be submitted in this situation. Like the higher level guys, when you guys watch and observe them, whether they compete or even them in training, you're not going to be seeing them trying to pass on their knees like this. Just like Josh is now, they're going to be getting to their feet, trying to work to the pass to the outside, or try to pass, through your guard, or maybe they try to stack you. Maybe they try to, do a different style of passing. But again, getting to the knees, it leaves you super vulnerable for different off balances, sweeps, or like in this position here, a loop choke. So even though it may make you feel safer in the moment, like feedback I got from Josh is that he was staying on his knees because he's really worried about being off balance and swept. But inevitably, what's going to happen? He's still going to get off balanced. He's still going to get swept. Or because he's on his knees, it's far easier for me to submit him. So it's one of those things that if you're going against someone who knows it better than you, I would still train with them the exact same way you would with somebody you, quote, believe you can beat, end quote, right? Because sure, you may step on more traps and get yourself in trouble more, but it's going to give you a better opportunity to improve faster by taking risk. Taking risk is going to be one of the most important things for you to be able to improve your jiu-jitsu faster, to feel like you're making like actual true progress. You got to be willing to fail. You got to be willing to get submitted. You got to be willing to get swept. Even though like him in some of those positions, he was on his knees and it made it to where he wasn't maybe getting swept as much. But think about the opportunities that he missed by not getting up to his feet and taking a risk of getting swept. So like, sure, he survived a little bit longer, but how much progress did he end up making in obviously getting better at jiu-jitsu, getting better at his passing, getting better at his base? This is obviously not to dog on Josh. I love Josh to death. And, Josh, I gave him this same feedback I'm giving you guys. But obviously I want to share that with you because, I want to help you guys improve your level of jiu-jitsu so you can learn it much faster than what I did and learn some of the, quote, I guess you could say, secrets or whatever. So, but as you guys can see, these situational rounds, sparring, I feel like is going to be one of the most important things when it comes to you guys improving your level of jiu-jitsu. And the only other thing I would add on for you guys to do is do what you're doing right now. Study film. Look at different ways of improving your level, because there are going to be certain seasons that doing things a certain way is going to work really well. And then some seasons doing things a different way is going to work really well. Just to give a brief example, like maybe you get injured, maybe you get hurt, maybe you flare something up to where you can't spar as much or you can't do certain positions as well. So in that season, you can't work and do those things. So then you would work and do something else, which is also going to help improve your level of jiu-jitsu. It's very odd, and I don't want to say funny, but kind of funny that sometimes an injury, sometimes getting hurt, sometimes like getting a really nasty, mean bruise on your shin bone can open up your jiu-jitsu in ways that you may not have done before because, you didn't have that injury or boo-boo that was slowing you down from doing the things you normally do. But because now you have one that slows you down, it's going to open your jiu-jitsu up to be able to work on different areas. And I would say one of the last things that would be super helpful when you do practices like these, this is at least at our gym and our culture, we'll do a lot of these situational rounds, sparring, whatever it is. And then we circle up and we ask each other, okay, what feedback or questions and observations you guys have. So we'll share things about each person that was at the practice, what they do well, what do you, maybe questions you have about what you were doing, or maybe feedback you have of something they could do better. And that collaboration in itself, feedback from my athletes, but also I would even say for myself, feedback I've gotten from other people that cross train with us that aren't really used to that, or just even some of our current suits right now, they give me feedback. It's been incredibly helpful and beneficial to me knowing what is working and what maybe needs to be polished up and improved a little bit. So if this is not a part of your culture, what you guys do at the end, obviously you're not going to be able to circle everybody up and do what I just mentioned to you. But what I would really encourage you to think about doing, because it's been such a huge benefit for our team, is to each training partner you have, be like, hey, what like feedback or suggestions do you have for me? Or like maybe a certain exchange, like, hey, what were you trying to do in this position? Or, hey, can you show me how you were able to escape out of my back control here? Because then you're going to get direct feedback of what they were doing to where then A, you can go back and think to yourself, what should I have done different in this position? Or B, you go with a higher belt and they tell you, oh, you forgot to do X, Y, and Z. So now you know I need to do that better next time so I get better. So I would encourage you guys to, if you guys have any questions or need any help, let me know in the comments below. Obviously, you guys can reach out to me through X. It's the same stuff. It's at Trey Carter JJ. I would really love to contribute, help you guys improve your level of jiu-jitsu faster. I feel like when I learned the things I shared with you guys today in this video, it revolutionized my jiu-jitsu, my progress, how much fun I was having in the sport. And I would love to see more people experience and feel what I experienced to get better faster.